So here we are at GreenFin 24 once again, and we're speaking now to Peter Bartolino, the Chief Legal Officer at Persefoni. Peter, tell us, what does the Chief Legal Officer of Persefoni work on day in and day out?
So as a CLO for Persefoni, leading carbon management accounting platform, basically I lead our legal and sustainability department, about 10 professionals. So we handle all the traditional legal affairs of a company that you might think of, contracting, labor and employment, risk management, board affairs, you name it. But also we have an integrated sustainability department. So that includes like Persefoni's own internal sustainability initiatives, but then also working with our product development team to help our platform, get better and respond to the needs of our customers, and then also working, with our customers to onboard the platform for the companies.
Peter, this area of reporting around carbon for companies across the spectrum is getting more complicated all the time and is incorporating a lot of current and soon to be in place regulatory infrastructure. How does a company like Persefoni not only keep track of what you're doing internally, but of all of your clients as well?
Yeah, so that's the biggest challenge, and that's why there's actually not a lot of companies that do this, because company has to, like us, has to marry very deep subject matter experts that follow the regulatory regimes as they're changing and evolving throughout the world, and then marry that with something completely different, which is a group of R&D people and software architects and programmers and coders to actually make software that is, with the idea that it's very, very easy for our clients to use. And a lot of times people who use our software really have very little experience in either accounting, carbon accounting, or sustainability. So to take something that's like very complex and moving very quickly and then make it easy that it's used in a software platform is what we do, we focus on. But basically, we're lucky to have like the A team of people working on our team. So even on my team, sustainability department, we have, not one, but two lawyers that were actually at the SEC working on the SEC climate rule. And now they're in-house at Persefoni. So they're really able to like look around the corner and see, okay, well, what's the legislation going to be, not only at the SEC, but at the state level? We've heard about California, but it's actually not even just California. There's other states behind it, like New York. There's going to pass similar climate legislation, at least looking at it. And then, of course, the whole world. So we have one person that specializes in just looking at the global policy regimes around climate.
Yes, we actually interviewed one of your legal associates from Persefoni earlier today, and her recall of all of the regulatory infrastructure, both in the U.S. and around the world, was spectacular. That seems to be an area where there's a lot of value being developed now across sectors of the economy for companies that are really digging into this process. Am I correct about that?
Correct. Yeah, I think you're probably referring to Emily Pierce.
Yes. Yes. That was terrific.
Yeah, and it's a very important space to be knowledgeable about. I mean, we do our best at Persefoni. For example, we have something called the Global Climate Policy Library, which is on our website. You could check it out. But the reason it's important is, even if like a U.S. multinational company, obviously by its definition, which would be in fact thousands of U.S. companies, they're doing business not just in the United States, but they're doing business around the world. And so whether those companies like it or not, or even realize it or not, they're already subject to the regimes of places around the world, such as EU, the CSRD, Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. Some companies don't even realize that, or they don't want to realize that, but it's true. And then similarly, you might have heard of something called ISSB, International. Yeah. Those standards are rapidly being adopted and taken up by securities regulators and stock exchanges around the world very quickly. So it's important for, really any U.S. company to, stay up to date on those, because it's either impacting them like right now in the case of CSRD, or will be shortly in the case of these ISSB rules.
Yeah, so ISSB is actually a compilation of several other regulatory or reporting infrastructures that have come together over the last few years, right? And they are, as you said, they are now serving the international marketplace and companies all over the world. It must be. I was trying to figure out how those platforms all brought their experience and their findings together, in some cases over maybe a decade or so, and are now incorporating all of that into one platform. How does that work?
I mean, that's actually been one of the positive surprises. And if we were to track, the GreenFin conferences and similar conferences over even the past 5 years, there was a complaint, you go back like 5 years ago, this quote, alphabet soup. That has, I'm not saying it's completely resolved itself, but a surprising amount of progress has been made with that. And I think it's because, if you look at, the multinational corporates, the investors, the banks, and various governments, I mean, a lot of these entities, span, all the continents, and there was just sort of a collective understanding and hunger, basically, to just say, okay, we need to just evolve towards a standard. Frankly, it's gone faster. I mean, I think ISSB was sort of announced maybe COP21. So we're looking at like 2.5 years now that it's now gone from being like, formed to, promulgating their standards last year, and then now being, taken up by the various regulators around the world. So it's going, that part is proceeding nicely.
Okay, good. Is there anything else that you're taking in from this conference this week that is surprising to you, different than you were expecting, or are you getting more just confirmation of the processes that you already have seen underway?
Good question. I'm anticipating this, but hearing more of like a heart in all this, as opposed to just like an analysis, and it's sort of like a call to action. Like, so the people here at this conference who largely are involved in some aspect of like financing or, controlling, money flows that could impact the sustainability. I'm hearing more, and it's resonating with me, like a call to action, and to actually err on the side of being active as opposed to passive, and I could tell my fellow CLOs out there, what that means for us inside of our corporations is exactly that, to like take an active role. I mean, I think as ESG is evolving, it can be a little bit of a jump ball within companies, where every company might do it a little bit differently. Sometimes this is done, this is in the purview of like chief operating officer who might be looking at decarbonization. Sometimes it's in the purview of a CFO who's thinking about how to use capital. Like, do you spend money to decarbonize, or do you spend money on carbon offsets, and that type of financial planning and analysis. But I would say I would encourage my brothers and sisters as CLOs to take a pretty, aggressive role, and seeing like how much we could actually do, as opposed to just taking like a minimalist approach. So that means really, getting carbon accounting right, putting all the controls into place, assuming, even wanting, frankly, that the SEC rule gets adopted, that the California 253 rule gets adopted, and then really taking an active role, and once you get the disclosure under control and the reporting, then like decarbonization, because time is running short.
Great. Peter, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate you taking the time at the end of the day, and we're here at the GreenFin 24 conference with Peter Bartolino of Persefoni.
All right. Thank you. Great to be here. Thanks.